A 24-year-old man inserted a foreign object into his anus, and to remove this foreign object, the medical team had to call the bomb squad. Wow, what could he have put in his anus? This happened on January 31st of this year. Now, you're going to be surprised by something that was inserted into the anus. By the way, don't forget to like and share. Subscribe so you can stay up to date on interesting topics, which will even lead to something very interesting. Because through this case, I'm going to explain about objects in the anus that some people insert and the risks these people take with their lives. Unfortunately, some end up dying. Let's go. A 24-year-old man was admitted to the hospital in southern France with a projectile lodged in his rectum. The removal of the object required a specialized bomb disposal team. According to the report, the patient told hospital staff that he had inserted an object into his rectum. During the surgical procedure, that is, an exploratory laparotomy, did the team identify whether it was a collection projectile? A projectile is a bullet from ammunition, a bullet, right? So a collection projectile, in other words, it was a special projectile about 20 centimeters long. Given the nature of the artifact, the doctors decided to call in a bomb disposal team to assess the risk and monitor the intervention. Well, firefighters were also mobilized to ensure fire safety during the operation. Emergency services reported that the explosive device was neutralized without detailing the method used. A spokesperson for the fire department and the hospital stated that there was no additional information about the case. Guys, have you stopped to think how crazy it is that some people end up doing this kind of stunt, right? They put something in their rectum, and come on guys, let's be very transparent here. The anus wasn't made to have anything put in it, physiologically speaking. But due to pleasure, there are things that the industry has made to resemble something that can be inserted into the rectum. Okay? Something that won't hurt, something that has some kind of lubrication anyway. But some people end up picking random things like food, for example, vegetables. Then it's up to your creativity. Vegetables, carrots, cucumbers, eggplants. So just imagine those kinds of vegetables. They're often found in people's rectums. Some people use glass, like alcohol bottles, perfume bottles, deodorant bottles. I had a case of a patient who inserted a flashlight. Don't ask me how, but anyway, these things happen. Look, we have nothing to do with anyone else's life, right? We are healthcare professionals, regardless of what people want to do with their lives. If these people come to the facility, we have to take care of them so it doesn't happen again and save them from harm. She ended up going there anyway. Something went wrong with her plan. So what happens? If we're talking about the rectum, right? The rectum has the anus. So the anus is just a sphincter. So when the anus relaxes, it relaxes, and then we have the rectum. The rectum is the large intestine. It's an extension after the sigmoid colon. And what happens is that if that muscle has something sharp, it can lacerate the entire digestive system, which is all contaminated, and the bacteria that live in the intestine are normally supposed to be there in that place. But from the moment a foreign object is inserted into the rectum and there's a cut in that part of the rectum, some of what's in the rectum can leak into the inner part of the peritoneum. There, it can cause a widespread infection, which we know as sepsis. So what happens? Most of the people who died after putting something in the rectum died mainly from two causes. By far, hemorrhage, because there was a cut and bleeding inside, and septicemia, which is a widespread infection caused by this rupture. So, what do we as healthcare professionals need to understand? That our guidance to the public has to be clear. Seek specialists in this area to get informed. Maybe the person wants to have fun, wants to try something different there. Anyway, look, here's the thing, man. Don't use anything that wasn't made for that purpose. So, if there are industries that make products for this purpose, look for information, get informed, talk to people, because anything that wasn't designed for that, when someone tries to use it, it could cost that person their life. Because nobody knows what will or won't cause a tear. The person could have bleeding, the person could get an infection, and not to mention, guys, an exploratory laparotomy, you have no idea the risk that person is taking. Just so you have an idea, nowadays, surgeries that are considered simple, like appendicitis or cholecystitis, right, which are ectomies, right? Appendectomy, cholecystectomy. Anyway, these simpler surgeries in the past were done with incisions. Today, with technology, everything is done by video. Much better, less exposure. The less we open someone's peritoneum, the better. Now imagine, because of a prank, having to do an exploratory laparotomy. So, in other words, the surgery itself is a major surgery, so it already carries risk just by being a major surgery. So, if we stop and think about the whole context, it's not worth the risk that this could cause. So you who are a healthcare professional, you have the obligation, the duty. Remember that primary care is about promoting health. And one of them is to promote information, so informing people is important. Why? Unfortunately, everyone who has had some kind of accident never imagined that it could happen to them. They never expected a cucumber or carrot to break and get stuck in the rectum, or that a small bottle could create a vacuum, making it impossible to remove. Anyway, there are a lot of things that happen that people don't imagine could happen, so getting guidance is important. In this case here, a projectile, imagine a bullet, there's gunpowder inside it. So they had to call in a team just to figure out what that was. Like maybe the guy wanted to blow up a hospital, I don't know. So just so you understand, this happens more often than you might think. It just doesn't get much media coverage, but for those who work in emergency care, for those on the front lines, they've already dealt with several situations like this. People come in embarrassed to discuss it, saying they inserted something but not specifying what. And then, when they go to the general surgeon, that's when they open up, they break down and tell everything that really happened. So, it's our duty to take good care of people, and that's part of our practice.